What's happening, you guys? Today, we're going to talk about the NBA. We haven't talked about basketball in a few weeks. It's time to dive in, see what's happening. What a perfect day to do so, considering that Peyton Watson has been traded to the Cavaliers. We'll do a dive into that trade, talk about Kawhi Leonard and all that getting settled. Is he now finally going to be a Raptor? Hooray for that. And for that, everything just being over with. And of course, don't worry, after this podcast, we'll talk about the NFL again because we're only a few weeks away from the start of the NFL season. But today, we're talking about the NBA. Let's get to it. All right, so the news of the day, the Denver Nuggets. How could they? How could the Denver Nuggets do this to Jokic in his prime? How could they trade away Peyton Watson? Well, look, I'll say this much. Does it make the Nuggets a worse basketball team to trade Peyton Watson? Yes, it does. He was coming on strong last year. And yes, his contract for that extension that he signed with Cleveland was only for $22 million a year. But I'll start right now by saying this. Do you know what that $22 million contract would have actually cost the Denver Nuggets? Over $100 million. That's right, because they are a second apron team. And I am, honestly annoyed at hearing so many people complain about the Nuggets not willing to pay Peyton Watson because it's, just $22 million and they don't know the actual math of basketball and how this all works. Again, the trade is the Cleveland Cavaliers are receiving Peyton Watson, Cam Whitmore, the LA Clippers are getting Max Strus, and the Denver Nuggets are going to get Julian Reese, I think that's Angel Reese's brother, an unprotected first-round pick, 2031 first-round pick from Cleveland. So that's like 5 years from now. It could be anything, honestly, especially with the way the lottery works now. And a second-round pick for 2032 from Sacramento. So they didn't get much, okay? But what they did get is essentially they, didn't go deep into the second apron. Now, don't get me wrong. Maybe one could argue they should have signed him and traded him, take on that extra penalty for the payroll. But before you have to pay that tax, have him play well in the beginning of the season and then trade him with the 4-year contract already that a team is willing to take on. That criticism I'm cool with. But the criticism, also the Wizards were involved in this trade. They get Trey Mann, a second-round pick, 2027 from Cleveland. From the Clippers that the Cleveland Cavaliers own and some cash. So look, at the end of the day, I've read so many things of people essentially mad at the Nuggets because obviously their team is getting worse. Is it getting worse? Absolutely. It is getting worse, right? I will say also with moving Peyton Watson, there's now a chance that they'll be able to get DeMar DeRozan. And guess what? Because they're a second apron team, they will use a trade exception, I'm fairly likely, to sign DeRozan. And you won't have to pay that ridiculous tax. So in reality, it's like they're getting DeRozan if they end up signing DeMar DeRozan, which, mostly seems to be the way that this is leaning. That is part of this trade that people need to consider. Now, look, I'm not defending the Nuggets for saying they're becoming a better basketball team. I'm not defending the Nuggets for saying they're helping out Jokic and putting him in a better situation to win the championship. But I am defending the Denver Nuggets for saying, hey, money doesn't grow on trees, and we need to just stop counting people's pockets and expecting them to just spend and spend and spend and spend ridiculous amounts of money. Now, some may say like, oh, well, it's the Cronkies, and those people own the Rams and this, and they have all this money. That's fine. But just because you can afford a $20 beer doesn't mean you should pay $20 for a beer because everybody else is doing so. I mean, that's the example I would use, right? I mean, can I afford to go to a bar and pay $20 for a Corona that's actually $8? Yeah. Will I now be, desperate for cash after that? No, but that's just not smart. Why would you do that? So and especially in the league where some owners have done that, right? I mean, the Warriors, I'd argue were one of those teams that were a big influence in going over the cap and going into the luxury tax and paying a ridiculous amount. One year, I think the salary cap was $110 million or $120 million, and they were paying they had a payroll of like $400 million, and they won a ring. But that can't be the new standard for everybody. And if that does become the new standard for everybody, then guess what? There's going to be an owner who's not going to be smart about his money, or he frankly is careless with his money, that he's not going to care and he's going to go deeper into the tax. He might pay $1 billion, but now that can't become the norm because, oh, the Lakers spent $1 billion on their cap and won the title, so now everybody should do that. Like, there's got to be a point where there's a limit. And what I'm saying is we're losing track of where that limit is. Realistically, I mean, the current salary cap, NBA salary cap, is set at $165 million. The luxury tax is at $200 million. Okay, so you actually have those $35 million from 165 to 200 million if you're re-signing your own guys and doing all that. So you got some wiggle room. The second apron stands at $221 million. That's a 21 plus 35. That's $56 million already over the salary cap, which is what is supposed to be, right? That's where the second apron starts. And the Nuggets, even having shipped away Peyton Watson, are still over the second apron, right? So currently, let's take a look. Currently, the Denver Nuggets have a payroll of $223.5 million. So they are slightly over the second apron still. And if they would have signed Peyton Watson to that 4-year, $88 million, their payroll would have skyrocketed past $400 million. Just think about that for a second. Not during the 4 years of the contract, just this season. So there's financial math. These people like the Cronkies probably didn't get to where they're at by overspending for everything, right? And I get it. Some people, you spend on certain luxury items. And I'm sure if this was going to be Anthony Edwards, they'd spend on that luxury item. But Peyton Watson ain't Anthony Edwards. Peyton Watson ain't guaranteeing you the title. Hell, last year they had Peyton Watson. The year before they had him too. And you can say, okay, he's an ascending player. That's true. But he was injured last year. Aaron Gordon, a big piece on this team that they don't want to trade. And if they trade it, fans would criticize him for not helping Jokic. Well, he's been injured the last 2 playoff runs. And they're not getting younger, right? And so, again, basketball-wise, yes, I'm not defending the move basketball-wise. You want to build around Jokic while he's in his prime and have as many good basketball players as you can have. And Peyton Watson is a really good basketball player. But there's also the business and the financial side of it. And that's just insane. Like, we've lost complete track of the money because other owners have done it, that now we just expect everybody to do it. Good for the Cronkies. That's the way I see it. Seriously. So right now, they're, like I said, they're over the second apron by a couple $1 million. Their payroll sits at 223.5. If they sign Peyton Watson, it would go over $400 million. Signing that Peyton Watson contract on paper looks like $22 million this next season, but in their payroll would have cost them like $175 million for one season. Like, what are we doing here? So that is what really sparked me, got me going to get on here and talk about, some NBA news, because that is just the amount of criticism that the Denver Nuggets as an organization are getting for this is, to me, ridiculous. Ridiculous. And look, that's what happens when you have expensive guys on your team. That's what happens when, you're paying a Nikola Jokic $59 million, a Jamal Murray $50 million, and Aaron Gordon $32 million, Cam Johnson $23 million, Christian Braun $21.5 million. So you can criticize those contracts. That's fine. Yeah, Christian Braun, overpay. Fine. Where was the criticism when Jamal Murray got $50 million? Aaron Gordon, $32 million. Cam Johnson, $23 million. Well, during that time, I heard people saying like, oh, pay the man. Aaron Gordon balled out. Pay him. Okay, that's fine. And he deserved it then. But this is the situation that you're in now. And you got to react to it. And even Jokic is $59 million, but obviously he's like one of the best players in the league, so you got to pay him that. But I'm just saying, those contracts, it's not just like, yay, they signed them, then they're keeping them. It's like, what are the ramifications of that contract? That's why with Victor Wembanyama, which also is a criticism that he took less money, well, good for him. Good for him. You know, we want these guys, like the ownerships, to not care about the money and just spend and spend and spend and spend. And then I've seen people upset that Victor didn't care about the money and essentially gave some back and allowed his team to have some flexibility so that they can win. And that's being criticized too. So which one is it? And frankly, I already think we are, even if at this current payroll that the Nuggets sit in, I already would commend the Cronkies for being in the second apron already. Like, you are already overpaying. Again, the salary cap sits at 165. They're paying 223. They're paying $58 million extra than what the cap is supposed to be. And I get it, you know, and that's extra, but nobody looks at it as extra because everybody's paying that. So again, I'll just go back to a simple analogy. If you went to a bar and everybody's paying $20 for a beer that costs $8, well, you can pay for it, but are you going to feel good about it? And even that's the current, the $20 is like, you know, from $8 to $20, that's double. If their payroll's over $400 million, that's more than double what the salary cap is. So again, would you pay $25 or would you be like, man, that's expensive? Why are you guys paying $25 for this beer? Let's go somewhere else. Like, we don't have to pay $25 for a Corona. So again, it's the landscape of the NBA. I get it, but somebody needs to call this out and just be real with the fact that we have completely lost track of how the landscape works and what our expectations are. So, you know, again, that's my that's the thing that's been kind of annoying me with this whole news. The Nuggets, they got worse as a basketball team, that's for sure. The Cavaliers, let's talk about them for a second. They got better, okay? Max Strus is on his way out. He's going to the Clippers. Nice little move there for the Clippers. But, you know, Peyton Watson going to Cleveland, that's big. Obviously, you got already good guards there. You know, Donovan Mitchell, James Harden. Now you have Peyton Watson, a playmaker as well. They got their two bigs. So this team, Cleveland, looks good. I'm curious. Let's take a look at their payroll because they got to be a second apron team as well, I imagine. Let's see. The Cleveland Cavaliers payroll. It stands total cap allocations at $180 million. Total cap $250. So, actually, I don't even know how they're not. I mean, they've done a good job, I guess. Evan Mobley. Oh, his extension's kicking in. So, wow. I mean, it looks like they're still. Are they not a second? Are they a second? A second apron team after trading for Watson. Surprised because they are deep. I mean, you know, and no, they're not. They're avoiding the second apron. So the way they structure the transaction, specifically clear room, leaving them with roughly $35 million in breathing room under the second apron. So Cleveland's in a great spot. Oh, because sending Max Strus out to the Clippers absorbed a massive chunk of Watson's incoming contract value, right? Because Max Strus' contract is $16.6 million. So really, I mean, they took on $6 million with this trade. You know, so that is, you know, and because Cam Whitmore carries a significant lower rookie scale salary, the secondary move freed up an additional $6.8 million in total cap space. So they got another little contract there that they can use, but they're still under the first apron. So the Cavs got wiggle room. They can even still make a move if they want to. So I like what the Cavs are doing. I mean, they got a good roster, right? Jordan Tyson's a nice rookie that played some meaningful minutes last year. Again, Donovan Mitchell, Darius Garland, Jared Allen, Evan Mobley, plug in Peyton Watson, and James Harden, which that's probably why, because they're not accounting for, Harden right here doesn't have a contract yet. So once Harden gets his deal, they'll probably for sure be a first apron team. And then maybe they'll structure it so that they avoid the second apron. But again, so the Cavaliers their payroll at the moment with cap allocations are tracking at roughly $250 million. So that's probably, again, that's different than $400 million. So good for the Cavaliers. I didn't even realize that they're in such a good spot financially as well. All right. Another player in this is Jonathan Kuminga, not in this trade, but in this offseason that's kind of been left out to dry. Remember, he got traded to Atlanta. He had some nice games and then some duds. Well, now he's just sitting out there. And, I mean, heck, he might go to Cleveland too with that $6.8 million, because at this point, I don't know who's paying Jonathan Kuminga. Unfortunate for him with the way it worked out that he doesn't really have a team now, and we'll see where he ends up. He has potential, I think, and I don't really know what the issues were with Steve Kerr and the Warriors team, but I do think that it's tough with that Warriors team. When you got a personality like Draymond Green, who's already kind of been, talking smack to their rookie and kind of, having the Michigan State beef with him because the rookie went to Michigan and Draymond went to Michigan State. And over Summer League, they were saying some stuff back and forth. So, that's not what you want from your leader with the rookie. So that's kind of messy. We'll see what happens there. And obviously what happens with Kuminga now that he's a free agent. And last but not least, so the NBA has found a resolution. They found no wrongdoings with Kawhi Leonard and the LA Clippers and all that stuff. So anticipate the deal with the Raptors being finalized. Brandon Ingram, you are an LA Clipper. Grady Dick, you're an LA Clipper. And Kawhi Leonard, you're a Toronto Raptor. Now with the Raptors, there was talk about them possibly trying to, get DeRozan as well. I don't think DeMar DeRozan is going to go there. I think he will end up in Denver. And you know what? Maybe Kuminga's a guy that the Raptors just end up paying, because at this point, the market's drying up for him. If DeRozan goes to Denver, well, where's Kuminga going to go? And they could maybe use like a young guy that can come off the bench and maybe make some noise when, maybe during the games that Kawhi's going to rest, because don't anticipate him playing 82 games. But I do like the way this Raptors roster is shaping up, and I think they got moves to make still. If Quickly plays well, RJ Barrett's contract, he's due for an extension. Will they get that done? We'll see. But they got options. Their rookie Allen Graves played solid during the summer league. If he can become half of what Colin Murray-Boyles was for them, assuming CMB takes that next step this next season, that would be a nice piece for the Raptors coming off the bench. So I think the Raptors can make some noise in the East. The Cavaliers, I think, can make some noise in the East. So the Eastern Conference is just insane. That it's really, the landscape has just completely shifted over. It always, look, as much crap as he takes, and as much as he may not be my favorite personality-wise, the NBA landscape still moves with LeBron James, right? It still moves with LeBron. Last year, we were talking about the Lakers like they were championship contenders, maybe. Well, now, and I get it that they were already a good team and they got Jaylen Brown, but now we're talking about the Philadelphia 76ers as a potential championship team. So give him his credit, because LeBron been doing this for so long, and it does seem like the NBA landscape still follows that man wherever conference he goes. So the Eastern Conference will be a lot of fun. Obviously, the West got some players in there that are exciting to see. Will the Wolves make it happen now with LaMelo Ball and Anthony Edwards? Seems like they're bonding cool off the court. So we'll see how it all shakes out. But this has been a checking in on the NBA episode, and I will do this again, I'm sure, in a couple of weeks, see where we're at, see what's new. And in a couple of weeks from now, we'll probably be a couple of weeks away from training camp starting and preseason already. The summer seems to be flying by these days, and especially having Summer League kind of become a more mainstream, tournament that we get to watch and enjoy. So hope you guys are having a good week. We'll do some more football, and soon enough, we got to start predicting these divisions in the NFL. So I will get on that and start that this week. I'll talk to you guys then. Thanks for watching.